Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So, I was going to do a review of this when I had originally finished the movie, but at that point it was already past midnight, and I've recently figured out, I actually like getting sleep. Normally I don't really sleep much, but since I'd come back from my vacation and then I was sleeping, but I was like actually getting sleep because I was going to bed earlier when I got home, and I was like, oh, so this is how people function during the day at like normal energy, and I liked going to bed early, and I'm trying to hopefully get myself to do that more, even if it means like maybe less movie nights with friends and stuff. So yeah, it was after midnight. Because what I had been getting in the habit of doing, and I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, is I'd finish watching a movie with my group, it would already be past midnight, and then I'd kind of force myself to do the movie review video. I mean, sometimes it was that I wanted the emotional response from the movie to still have that when I'm talking about it, but I thought if I'm like literally losing sleep over this, it just doesn't feel worth it to me anymore. Plus, I kind of wanted to sit on it a little bit. There was a lot of stuff that happened in this movie, so I forced myself to wait, and that worked out fine. I don't have the hype that I did when I originally finished the movie, but I actually haven't really been thinking about the movie at all. I waited like most of the day until like the evening to finally record this. But I wrote a bunch of notes like during the movie and right after I finished and before I went to bed, so I feel like that makes up for it. The movie was really crazy, honestly, but also really good. So what happened was, this was the other movie I was debating on watching on the plane ride home, It was either going to be this or FNAF 2, and then I was messaging my friends, and I said, can we just watch the movie together so I don't have to watch it on the plane? And they're like, yeah, sure. So we watched the movie together, and that was actually a really good decision. At first I wasn't sure because I got home and my dad told me it was on HBO Max, and I was like, oh, I could have just watched this at home by myself. But I am glad now that I watched it with my friends, because the people in the group, or actually I think it was just one or two people who had seen this movie already in our group, but one of them would always tell us to look away if we were squeamish at certain parts of the movie. So I actually have to give this warning myself before I continue like talking about the movie, as like a just in case you're listening to this but you haven't seen the movie. There's some gore in this for sure. They full on show plenty of like stuff with blood and injuries to the point it was kind of a bit much for me. Like, not so grossed out that I like vomited or anything, but it was one of those where I could tell something was gonna happen and like sort of seeing it, and I went nope nope nope, and I would just look away from the screen. So I'll be talking about some of those a little bit in more detail as I'm going through my notes, but I feel like I have to give that warning. If you're someone that's a bit squeamish, I'm not saying that you can't watch the movie, but just maybe for you, there might be things you're not gonna want to see on the screen. There were parts that were described to me of what was happening after we got through them, but when I looked away so I didn't see them myself, I just feel like I had to give that heads up. The jump scares were good. There weren't too many of them, but when it would happen, I mean, I could tell like when they were coming, so I would kind of mute the volume a little bit, but they would get me. I did jump. There's like a lot of them are with the Aunt Gladys character. There's one where she shows up in a bed out of nowhere, and I actually kind of jumped a bit. But speaking of that character, she's a really well done character, and I feel like the actress that played her totally deserved that Oscar that she got for it. I think it was the Oscar for like best supporting actress. The scene with her running from the kids, that was my favorite in the whole movie. It was like so worth everything else in the movie and also hilarious. I felt like the first half of the movie was kind of slow, but at the same time it's also necessary, because this is a movie where there's like 5 or 6 different like you're following each of these characters and their perspectives on everything. and it ties together great at the end, and this would be a great movie to honestly rewatch. I feel like it would probably be better on a rewatch because you already know everything that's going to happen, so you're paying attention for more clues, and kind of you already know how things are going to connect together, so it would probably be more enjoyable that way. It took all the way until the story with Alex for me to kind of finally start piecing things together, what was going on, but I was like paying attention for clues beforehand, and someone who'd seen the movie had told me like, okay, pay attention to like this specific thing on screen or whatever. But and then we rewatched the intro for the Oscars for this year after we finished the movie, and it's honestly way funnier now with like context from this movie, because the if you hadn't seen the Oscars, it's I'm kind of sad it's the last one that Conan O'Brien's hosting. I really like him as the Oscars host, but it's him dressed as Aunt Gladys, and they recreate that scene in Weapons where he's having to run away from the kids, but he's going into the worlds of like the different other Oscar nominee movies. And I enjoyed that also because now I've seen Sinners, so I finally understand that one section of it where it's the part related to Sinners. But now I understand what the heck's going on with that Oscar intro, because I was originally like, why is he running away from these kids and why is he dressed as the orange lady from Weapons? I was like really confused, and now I'm like, okay, I get it now. So it's just a lot funnier now, but it's also just, that was like a really fun intro. Okay, I'm gonna start on my notes now. I don't really have notes on the music, actually. I do want to say, like, the only note I made on a specific song was actually the first song that plays in the movie. It's the one when the kids are originally running out of their houses. Whatever song it was, I'll have to look on the soundtrack. It was really chill. I liked it. The camera work in this movie was really good, especially for, like, a lot of the scares. I actually wrote down specific points, for that of some of my favorites. There's a part when the character James is running in the alley and the camera is a bit lower. It's like kind of towards the ground. There's two times where Justine is in a store and the camera, the first time it happens, it's behind her, and the second time it's in front of her, and you get to see in the background another character is tailing her. But I like with those parts, with her in the store, is that it never cuts to anything. It's like one long continuous shot. And then there's another one when James, he finds the house where all the kids are in the basement, and he's trying to leave the house, and the camera is put at the perspective, like the eye level of like the door, and the way, and it even follows around when the door moves. I don't really know how to describe it, but it was really cool. I don't know what that kind of perspective is, where the camera is in the place of where an object should be. It kind of reminded me of like, or my favorite use of that was with the movie Challengers, where the camera becomes the tennis ball, and it's like POV, you're the tennis ball. But it whatever that is, where it's like it becomes the eye level of like an object or replacing it. I always just think that's so cool, with camera work. And the story of this movie is pretty interesting too, where it's told out of order from the perspective of the people that live in this town, where all of the kids in one of the elementary school classes have disappeared except for one. You also get the perspective of that kid as well, but it's like the teacher and some of the parents. It's like 5 or 6 different people. I think that's really cool. One of my friends described it in a really good way, actually, before we started the movie. He said it's kind of like Hoodwinked, where it's like just different people's perspectives on the same event, basically. And like the further you go into it, like the more perspectives you have, the more things kind of just start making sense by the end. I always really like that form of storytelling, where it can be kind of confusing at first. You get further enough into it and you'll have that like, I know what's going on sort of moment, which, man, that kind of makes me want to rewatch Hoodwinked now. It's a good movie. It has like weird animation, but it's a really funny movie. The logo for Weapons, not the one that's on this poster, but like within the actual movie, it looks different. Just straight up looks like it has the PlayStation triangle in it. It was kind of weird. Let me see. I noticed that a lot of the characters just aren't really good people. I was kind of, I don't know why I was surprised by that. Like, you start off with Justine. I didn't really know to root for her or not, where you know that she cares about the kids, and sometimes it feels like she's the only one that does, because like her, like almost all her class had disappeared and everything. And she's trying to investigate about the disappearances and the police and the parents, and no one really wants to let her. But then it's like really creepy where she's kind of she is stalking the one child that has not disappeared, and she's following school buses and following kids around. And it's like, I know it's the final kid in her class, Alex, and she tries to explain to him of like, oh, I'm here if you need me, but it comes off as really creepy that she's following him around and stuff, to the point where he tells her like, hey, can you stop following me, because that's weird. And then her segment ends with Justine. She's in her car and someone gets into her car through the back door of it and cuts off her hair. Which that person, because you see the scissors again, turns out to be Aunt Gladys. I thought Justine was going to get her throat sliced or something, but no, it's just that her hair gets cut, and I was really confused by that. You find out more information about the hair later. It actually ends up being really important. But I was thinking, like, because this person doesn't break the window to get into the car. You just hear someone open a door and they get in. So that means she fell asleep in her car with the doors and everything just unlocked. That's so irresponsible. One of the things I didn't really like with this is that with the night scenes, it was too dark. It was kind of hard for me to see what was going on. For a movie that's called Weapons, I know this is going to probably sound kind of dumb. I didn't expect there to be any actual weapons in it. I thought the name Weapons was going to be like a metaphor. I actually still don't really get why it's called Weapons, if I'm completely honest with you. I thought it meant, because you always see stuff about the kids and their disappearance and stuff in the trailers, even on the poster. I thought it meant that the kids were going to be weapons, and the kids are being used for something, but it turns out to be for something completely different. But yeah, there's this one part, once it switches over to the perspective of Josh Brolin's character Archer, which, can I say, he is one of my favorite performances in this whole movie. He's going through this like dream sequence, and there's just a giant gun that's floating over a house. But yeah, even though it's called Weapons, I didn't expect to see any actual weapons. That like actually surprised me. And then in his dream sequence, he ends up crying and apologizing to his missing son. And I thought that was really well acted. That was one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. And then that's where the Aunt Gladys jump scare. There's like several jump scares with her, but that was the one that got me. It's because he's Josh Brolin's character Archer is giving this really like kind of heartfelt speech to a his son is missing, but it's like a dream sequence, so the son is there, and you get really into it and stuff, and then you get the Aunt Gladys jump scare at the end of that, and that that made me jump. This movie actually was kind of scary. It's kind of funny actually, because both of my parents watched this movie as well. Like all three of us had seen Sinners and Weapons, but not together as like a family. And then when I'm gonna go on like a slight tangent here. When my parents were watching Sinners, my mom was surprised that I had already seen it and asked me if I had like nightmares from it or if I didn't sleep, and I was like, what? I mean, there was some stuff in it that was like a little, it's more of a thriller than a horror movie, and there is some stuff that kind of did creep me out a bit, but I don't view Sinners as scary. And then I watched this movie, and this movie was actually kind of scary. So but with both of those movies, I can say, and this relates to my next note, that the oh, hold on, someone's texting me. Okay, I can continue. The makeup in both of those movies is really good. Like the makeup for the vampires and Sinners, and the makeup for oh gosh, I don't remember the character's name. He's one of the characters we follow the perspective around. It's probably somewhere else in my notes. There's this guy, I think he's like the principal of the school or something, and you see him early on in the movie. He attacks Archer and Justine, and he looks kind of scary because his eyes look like they're gonna like pop out of their sockets or something. You get to learn about that character later, and you get to see that scene again, and it puts it in a completely different perspective. Anyway, there's a character named Paul. He's an asshole. I didn't want him to be a main character, but he was. And you also get to meet a character named James. And I thought the character James, there's a part when Paul pins him on the ground. James does drugs, and Paul is a policeman for context. So there's a part when I don't remember if it's like meth or something that James does. I don't remember. There's a part when Paul's chasing James, and James gets pinned on the ground, and he looks up at Paul, and I honestly thought it was James Franco at first, and then I realized it's not him, because this isn't a movie from the early 2000s, and the guy playing James looks a bit too young to be James Franco, but it like really threw me off at first. And then you get to follow James' perspective. I don't really have much to say on the Paul segment. But then it goes to James. I was not expecting him, of all of the characters, to end up finding the kids. And you finally get to find out where they went, because they, ran away in the darkness and stuff. They've been in a basement this entire time. And it's the basement of the house of the one kid that's like still in town. It's kind of interesting to me too is James, when he finally does end up like taking baths and stuff, he actually somehow comes out more sane, because you see him call the police, and he's just casually telling them like, hey, I found those missing kids, they're in a basement and stuff, like completely level-headed and everything. And then he ends up getting kidnapped, and then you get I'm trying to remember his oh, okay, yeah, you get Marcus. Marcus is the character that attacks Justine and an Archer, who has like kind of the freaky makeup. I couldn't remember what his name was. Yeah, then you have the perspective of that guy, Marcus, and you finally get introduced to Aunt Gladys. She appears throughout the movie. She's recognizable by her orange hair, but this is like when you finally get introduced to her as a character, and that's like halfway through the movie. You learn that she's Alex's aunt, though I'm not really sure if she's Alex's aunt. I feel like it's sort of hinted at that she's like older than she actually is, so I just thought that she was lying about being his aunt, especially because there's a part of the movie when she's talking to, I think it's Marcus and his husband, and she uses some like old-timey phrase, and they're both really confused, and one of my friends looked up the phrase, and it's from like the 1800s or something. But Aunt Gladys, she's an interesting character, where she takes it's sort of like a voodoo thing, I don't really know, where she can take someone's hair and then use it to control people. She puts it on like some kind of stick and then breaks it, and they basically become like her puppet, and she causes Marcus to attack his husband, which involves getting his face smashed in, and that was gross. I wasn't really expecting that. It didn't freak me out as much as I thought it would, because with the camera you don't really see the smashed in face too badly. It's not like directly facing the face from above, you just kind of see it from the side, but that was like the first time in the movie where I was like, whoa, okay, they're not, the violence is violence. But then you see the part when Marcus attacks Justine again, and it's because Gladys is controlling him. It was nice to get the context on that. And then that segment with Marcus ends with him apparently getting his head smashed in by a car. My friend gave a warning about that. It was like, hey, if you're squeamish, look away. So I didn't see that at all. but judging from my, because everyone was in the group call watching this and stuff, judging from the other people's reactions who hadn't seen the movie and were looking at the screen, I'm glad I didn't see it. So that's something I can say is like a gore warning. And then you get to finally see Alex's perspective, where, man, he's definitely going through it through this movie, where you get to see what his life is like before his Aunt Gladys comes to visit, and it seems pretty nice. And then as soon as she comes to visit, she like takes control of his parents, which I still don't really understand that, where they might as well be like zombies or something. They don't really do anything. They're not really like zombies. Actually, if I was going to make a zombie comparison, I would make it more to the people she's controlling that become really violent. They're kind of like mindless zombies, but Alex's parents, she makes it so they don't really do anything. They might as well just not have brains. They just kind of sit around. And I still don't really understand why she does that. And then she's trying to control Alex, not like through the magic stuff or whatever it is with her stick hair thing. Just verbally, I mean, like as the authority figure and stuff. So he has to start doing stuff to try to save his parents and not tell anyone what's going on. Or Aunt Gladys straight up tells her nephew, like, yeah, if you say anything about this, I'm gonna make your parents eat each other. And then as a threat to show that she's serious, she makes them stab themselves in the face with a fork. Thankfully that doesn't end up being too nasty, but I was watching it at the start and I looked away because I was like, this probably could get kind of nasty. Aunt Gladys, I'm glad within this movie you don't really learn much about her. Like, you see that her orange hair is actually a wig. She's bald. I think she's dying from some kind of disease. I don't think the movie clarifies what it is or what that's about. And I was I wasn't sure by the end of the movie why she was kidnapping the kids in the first place, and one of my friends explained it that she's taking their life essence so that she doesn't die. And who knows how long she's been doing that, honestly. She might just be like an old woman that's actually older than she looks or whatever. But yeah, that was something that wasn't clear to me, though. What I'm not excited about is my friends were saying when we finished the movie that apparently the people that made weapons are going to make a like prequel movie about Aunt Gladys. I wouldn't want a movie about her origins. I liked that within this one she's the villain and you don't really know anything about her, and I feel like that makes her more scary. I don't want her mysteriousness explained. I feel like that would kind of ruin it, but that's just me. Anyway, then from there the movie gets pretty gory, where people get shot in the head. I've never really seen that with a movie, and again, I don't really watch many horror movies or really like gory ones for context. This is just in terms of things I've watched. I've never seen a movie until this one where someone gets shot in the head and they like full on show it on screen. I mean, I did look away a little bit, but it doesn't, I'm used to like when someone shoots themselves in the head in a movie that it shows either like their silhouette or you just hear the noise or it happens off screen or it like cuts away to someone else. So that like fully surprised me. There's a part where someone's skin gets peeled off, I think with like a razor or something. It's like on their face. So I feel very mixed where like there's these, I wrote in my notes, action chases. There's like chase scenes or people attacking each other towards the end that are like kind of fun to watch, but they also will like get really violent out of nowhere. Like there's a part at the end when two of the characters that are being controlled by Aunt Gladys are attacking two of the other characters on the ground and like trying to kill them, and it's like very high tense and it's kind of cool to watch, but it also will get gory out of nowhere and it's like whoa. I wrote a note in my notes that just says jump scares really make you jump, but I didn't write which jump scare it was. I guess there was more at the end that I forgot about. And then it gets to the scene where the army of children are chasing Aunt Gladys, and that was a really funny scene. It's basically like it turns into a cartoon where the kids run so fast it looks like they're being sped up, and they literally will like jump through windows and shit. Though I was kind of confused about, like, they jump through so many windows and there's broken glass, and I'm like, why is it not hurting them? How are they doing this where they're chasing her and not becoming tired or anything? But yeah, I finally had the context for that Oscars intro. And then I jokingly said right before it happens of like, because the kids end up all jumping on top of Aunt Gladys and like cornering her, and I said, yeah, the kids are probably gonna kill her or something. And I said it excitingly, but like in a joking way, you know. I didn't think they'd actually do it. And then they ripped off her limbs and they tore off her face, and I was so grossed out that I had to look away from the screen. I thought it was going to be like, if they tried something like that it would just show the kids in a pile and it wouldn't show anything, but no, it full on shows them ripping off her limbs and tearing off her face. And that was the thing that was just too much for me, and I had to look away because that was like genuinely grossing me out. So then the end of it is that all of the kids get to be with their parents, except for Alex. He has to go live with another aunt, which the movie has to clarify is someone nice this time. And his parents are basically just gonna not be themselves. Hold on. Sorry, I had to sneeze. They're basically not gonna be themselves forever. He's like never gonna get them back, basically. And I think that's terrible, because I feel like out of all the kids, he's the one that suffers through everything the most. Like, I think he was already getting, like, bullied by the other kids even before Aunt Gladys shows up. And then she shows up, and basically his parents are, like, might as well be gone forever. They don't even recognize him as, like, their own son, and they don't talk or do anything. They just kind of, like, in a vegetative state, pretty much. And then Aunt Gladys made all the other kids leave, and it's just like, poor Alex. And yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it, pretty much all my notes. I thought it was really good in terms, and I haven't seen all of them, and I'm not sure if I'm going to, of like movies that were nominated for Oscars this year, like the big ones, you know. Because let me see, off the top of my head, I've seen Sinners, Weapons, K-pop Demon Hunters, which I don't remember if I made a review video on that. I don't think I did, but that was a fun movie. I'm not going to make a video on it, but I wanted to say that was a fun movie. So yeah, that one, Sinners, Weapons, and Frankenstein. I think that's all I've seen. Oh man, that's hard for me to say. I think at least between this one and Sinners, because those are the two that I like just watched within these past couple weeks. I like both the movies. I think they're both really good. I think I like Sinners. I enjoyed Sinners a bit more, but this was also really good. But I also really liked Frankenstein. I think I kind of liked that I feel like I almost have to rewatch it again to know. And I've been watching some more Guillermo del Toro movies. Actually, you're gonna get a video on Hellboy at some point, and I'd forgotten that was a Guillermo del Toro movie. I'm like currently watching that for the first time. I don't know if I'm gonna get to finish it in time though before I end up staying with my aunt and stuff. We'll see. But yeah, this was good. I'm glad I finally watched it, because I kept hearing that it was like really, really good, and I was trying to avoid spoilers, and I was so close to just deciding to watch it on the plane, and I thought, this is a really good movie. I should watch this on like a larger screen. And I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I watched it with my friends, because there are some things I did not want to see on this screen from this movie. And that it worked out, because then I got to watch FNAF 2, and I was fine with watching that on a plane. If anything, if I watched that on a bigger screen, I probably would have gotten more scared. So probably just with the stuff with the puppet though. The animatronics I was fine with, but the puppet stuff was kind of scary. Yeah. All right, thanks for watching. Bye bye.